we saved you a seat. This is Train Station at 8, a video game music podcast. I almost forgot what kind of podcast it is, which is not a good start.
No.
I am Brian Kelly, your host, and joining me today is your co-host, Stephen Kelly. Hi, Stephen.
Hello there.
You're my brother.
Yep, I'm always your brother. I'm always here.
Yep. And joining me today is someone who is not my brother, Matthew. Oh gosh, I never asked you how to pronounce your last name.
It's fine. It's Tucciarone.
Tucciarone.
No one will ever get it right the first time, so it's really okay.
We should have taken bets. I probably would have just gone, and we have Matthew Tucciarone here.
No, that's fair. That's usually how people tend to go. So,
all right. Well, it's great of you to join us today.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
This is I was going to say what episode it was, too.
Well, I think we should let Matthew introduce what he does on the YouTube space.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm Matthew, but on the YouTubes, I'm Major Third. I do lots of videos about video games and music, mostly, and a few other random things, a few random songs and stuff I've done.
Right.
And the really big thing that I did was an 8-bit version of the Dota 2 theme. That's easily my biggest video at the moment.
Oh, cool. Well, I mean,
yeah, so
you're hitting all the retro circles, and then you're hitting all the Dota circles, so you have a pretty big audience base there.
I have a friend who's super big in Dota 2 scene, so he wanted me to do that, and yeah.
That's cool.
And then I figured from there, this making videos about video game music is something I've wanted to do for a while, so I started doing them. Yeah. And
it's I really enjoy them because I think I know more about video game music than the average person. I'm no genius. I can't remember my names half the time. But that is definitely a show that is consistently teaching me stuff I did not know. And just for
it's teaching me stuff I didn't know either. So
yeah, there you go. And if even the creator is learning new things, you're in good shape.
Oh yeah. No, the best way to learn is to teach. So
that is very true.
How many of these have you done now?
Oh geez. I think I just put up, not meaning to date the episode, I think I just put up 14, the Tim Fallon episode. Mm-hmm. That's 14 or 15, somewhere in there. So
do you have a set schedule, weekly or whatever? Do you put them up?
I'm trying to do every 2 weeks, but it kind of gets gets muddled. Mm-hmm. But this one was 3 weeks, which was better than the last one, which was a 4-week period. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting better, but I'm trying to do every 2 weeks. So
that's cool.
On Thursdays.
Nice. Well, everyone check that out for sure. Major Third on YouTube.
And obviously we'll have links on the site.
Yes. Check the show notes and all that good stuff that Stephen puts together. So this is episode number 6, Dynamic Ditties.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that was going to be the name, but I'm super good with that.
I was stuck on that for a while, and then I'm like, yes, I have a name!
Someday alliteration is going to get old, but I think it'll be beyond my lifespan.
That day is not today.
It is not.
That day is tomorrow. So this is an episode all about dynamic music, music that changes along with the game, and how that contrasts to static music, which is music that does not change with the gameplay.
No way, bro.
To give a quick description of them there. So, our format for the show is we have 8 different questions that we ask the panel, and go along like that. So, question number 1 is a simple one. What have you been listening to? Any music, not just video games.
Hardest question.
I know.
Mostly just because I'm not sure if I should put down everything I've been listening to or just the main stuff. But let's let Matthew start this time. Let's be polite.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Well, throwing me under the bus isn't always considered polite. So. I've been listening to a good bit of, honestly, I know this isn't music. At work, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff, not, like this. Mm-hmm. I've been listening through, I know y'all are fans of VG Empire. I've been listening through some of their backlog.
No, we don't support listening to podcasts. Podcasts are horrible.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Waste of time.
Watch your tongue.
Other podcasts are the worst.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't give our competition plugs.
Just go back a few weeks, and Kevin Van Ord of GameSpot.com has definitively stated that this is the best podcast.
No, I think this is the best podcast ever.
Ever created. I think that was under duress. I think he was really hungry and wanted to leave at that point, but he did agree with us. So
what else have you been listening to?
Let's see. Also, because of the Tim Fallon episode, he's super inspired by like progressive rock from 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. And Yes is one of my favorite bands, so I've been listening to a lot of Yes. They're really good. They're like, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that I grew up listening to a lot of music from the 70s. So, and it's weird. I kind of have this odd nostalgia for music that was made 30 years before I was born. So,
yeah, that's interesting.
I love listening to it though. You already did the nostalgia episode though, so I won't go too much into that.
For people who aren't super familiar with him, like maybe myself, what would you say Tim Fallon is most known for?
See, that's something I bring up in the episode is, a lot of the games that he did are really bad.
Right.
They just have super good music. Like Silver Surfer for the NES that has actually, if you listen to the other stuff that, on that VG Empire, the same site, they do, Laser Time. The theme for Laser Time's a Tim Fallon song from Silver Surfer.
Mm-hmm.
It's Solstice is another one he did. He did Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future for the Dreamcast.
Awesome.
It's a really good soundtrack.
It is. It definitely is.
Super good. He did the Starsky and Hutch game.
It's like a really weird, eclectic. Yeah.
It's a pretty big mixture.
Repertoire. Yeah, it's. But I mean, yeah, like Silver Surfer is like Mega Man level good. Like, it really is good.
Oh, it's super good.
It's just a shame that.
It's a shame that it's on Silver Surfer.
Right.
He did a lot of LJN games, which are, AVGN talks a lot about, their badness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They're not good, but have great music, so.
That's
Sometimes
interesting.
those are the most fun gems to find.
We need to do an episode sometime on bad games with good music.
I've thought about that, but I almost feel like that would be too negative.
Like, we can talk about how good the music is.
Yeah, but just a lot of our show is like, it's not about criticizing video games or songs. No. It's more about just sharing the enthusiasm. I don't
Unappreciated games with great music.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's something that's like games that kind of flew under the radar, but have really good music.
Well,
even if the gameplay's not.
Spoiler,
Grabbed by the Ghoulies, for example.
Spoiler.
Well, no, I was just going to say spoiler that I actually thought up the show idea and have pitched it to some people who said yes a while ago, but they haven't gone back to me. So maybe it'll happen.
Pull back the curtain.
Nice. Man, I panicked for a second. I'm like, I'm not recording myself on Audacity.
Oh,
I forget that you're doing that.
Somebody voices habits.
Yeah, different podcasts have different recording methods. Pull back the curtain.
There's Tim Fallon. There's Yes. Anything else going on in Music Land?
I mean, just, shuffle, go all over the place. I had a good friend come into town last weekend as well, and we kind of, like seeing old friends tends to go. There's always a big music swap. So, listen to Dust Force, the soundtrack from Dust Force.
That's fantastic.
That's a fantastic soundtrack.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's super chill and it's great. Bit of that. And also, listen to music for a game that I'm going to plug the episode I did at the end. So.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Well, teaser.
You have to stay till the very end to learn what this fascinating title is.
Or just watch this video, which might be out.
Hey, Brian?
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you curious to know what I've been listening to?
I am dying of curiosity, literally, so please tell me.
Well, that's great. I've been listening to Sonic R. So many different things to see. There's no time. So many different things to do, but there's no time. So many people all around. So many feelings to be found. Living in a city where no one lets you down.
No way, bro.
Yes way, all the way, bro. I was in the car.
Can you feel the sunshine?
It brightens up your day.
Supersonic racing.
But no, I was in the car and I'm like, I'm feeling kind of down. Like, what should I listen to?
All this living in the city has me down. I'm going to work it out.
Take me back in time.
Mm-hmm. Like
Yeah,
diamonds
and
in the
so
sky.
I just ran across Sonic R and hit the play button, and I was just immediately happier. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's great music.
I just love that they used it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't even know what, the Sega developers were thinking at that.
No.
Like,
It is quite possibly the most confusing music decision in a video game ever.
because if you go in and you turn off the music to that game, you just have your mascot racer. It's just Sonic and Tails running around and racing each other. Then you turn on the music and you've got this pop, is it pop music? I don't really know what it is.
I don't even know.
R&B-ish.
Yeah. And it's all inspirational and you gotta work it out and make it real.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So I listened to that.
Okay.
But then when that ended, I decided to put some more culture on my life and listen to Video Games Live Level 3 again. I'm still profoundly impressed by that album.
Mm-hmm. What if Video Games Live did a cover of Can You Feel the Sunshine?
Oh man, you get Tommy Tallarico up there with the guitar.
Yeah.
The whole chorus, singing along. Yeah.
Can you feel the sunshine?
Oh my
like,
gosh, I love it.
A dozen voices all in harmony. But Tommy Tallarico was even skeptical when people wanted to hear Kirby music.
Oh, I remember that. Yep.
I don't know if he would let that fly.
That sucks because Kirby music's awesome when it's
I know.
orchestrated.
I remember going to one of the concerts and he's like, I've been hearing on the message boards, you guys want to hear Kirby music? The whole crowd erupts into cheers and he stands there shrugging like, okay.
I think he was playing the crowd.
Probably so, but it
He
works.
knows
At that.
those stuff. Yep.
Yeah. I'm
There's
just glad that,
Pokemon music now as well, right?
yeah. Oh, that Pokemon music is so good.
Mm.
Like, it brings it to life in a whole new way. So there's been Video Games Live, there's been Sonic R. I finally bought the full Burning Crusade soundtrack. I've been holding that hostage for myself since I still haven't played through all of the content from Burning Crusade. Yes, I'm a little late to that party.
I was able to quit the habit before Burning Crusade.
Never.
Oh, nice.
Never will I quit. But no, I hit level, or I'm about to hit level 70 probably this week in the World of Warcraft. For the first time, yes, I've been playing for years, and yes, I'm just now getting to level 70. But that's okay.
He makes a lot of characters.
I sure do. So now I'm in Northrend, and I bought the soundtrack for Burning Crusade, and
Is it good?
it definitely is, though I will admit that I already owned the best of the music.
Right. Yeah.
Like the Sindare music and the Draenei music, the Exodar theme, all that stuff is already in my library. But I wanted to complete it for completion's sake.
Okay.
Sure.
I think that's been the main stuff, though. I also picked up the Remember Me soundtrack, but haven't really listened to that yet.
Neat. Oh, what have I been listening to?
That actually ties into the topic today.
It sure does, yeah.
Oh, good point. I don't have anything that ties into the topic today, I don't think. I'm listening to more of the Glory Days because that's such a good album.
Oh, it is such a good album.
I never really get sick of listening to it. So
Matt, you know what that is?
I do not. I was about to Google it on my phone. Glory Days.
I always have, a second window up for Googling stuff. Mid-podcast. Do you know Jimmy Henson / Big Giant Circles?
I've heard of them. I wouldn't say I know them.
Okay. Yeah, he's same guy, just Big Giant Circles is his, username or screen name on the internet. But he makes a lot of different chiptune stuff, mostly. He's also done music for kind of big games, like he did some stuff for Mass Effect 2 and 3, and did some stuff for Call of Duty. But his kind of passion projects on his own time is chiptune kind of stuff. And Glory Days is an album very much dedicated to chiptunery. And it is great.
Cool.
Pretty much my favorite soundtrack of that genre. So
Gotcha.
that and his other stuff.
I'll have to look it up.
So I would do that. Also been listening to some Mumford and Sons, which is not video game music. It's like a British folk band that is very good. I would recommend
I
listening
actually liked it from what I've heard.
Oh, I didn't even listen to it.
You played
much.
it in the car.
That's right. That's right. I didn't know you were listening.
I don't know why you weren't letting us listen to Sonic R, but whatever.
I guess I'll listen to Bummers.
I only allow myself that once a year, so it'll be properly special. But yeah, they're good. Kind of folk bluegrass kind of stuff. That's most of what I've been listening to. I recently discovered Spotify and now want to start listening to stuff on that.
I've never used Spotify.
Right. It seems
good.
pretty cool.
Oh yeah, no, Spotify's great. Especially whenever you want to listen to a lot of different kinds of music, but you don't feel like clicking through YouTube to listen to a song. Spotify is great for that. So
yeah, I'm hoping to use it to find new kinds of music because I love listening to different stuff. But I don't always know where to go to find it. So looking forward to that. So I guess we can move on here to question number 2.
Oh boy.
What is dynamic music and what's static music? Steven,
as
you wrote
always,
this question out.
I write really loaded questions for the beginning.
Not only loaded, but used a contraction for the second what and not for the first.
Whoa, that's not like me. Alright, I apologize for that, for starters.
Yeah, what are you doing?
But I think we have to frame this question if we're going to make this the episode topic, because it's not clear, I would say, what your definition of dynamic music is.
Alright. So static music is when music is kind of low quality and there's all this kind of interference.
No, wait, okay, Brian, I see where you're going with this, but that's just static.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it has very little, if nothing, to do with music. So, well, Matthew, how about you start? Give us what you would define dynamic music as opposed to static music.
Static, yeah. In terms of video games, obviously is the big thing we want to talk about now. Dynamic music is just music that changes because of something that the player does. Whether that's just walking around, going to a different area, getting into a fight or something in like a JRPG, or, completing a puzzle or doing something really specific. Those are all could be considered, dynamic music. Obviously one of the most simple example is, I'm walking around the world of, Final Fantasy something, and then, you run into something and then the music changes because I'm in a battle now. But it can be used in a lot of different really cool ways too, but I think that's another question. So
yeah, that's a good distinction because it's not just music that matches what's going on, because cutscenes will have music that matches the action, but dynamic music is more of music that, like you said, matches the player's actions. Static music is just music that plays regardless of what you do.
In a sense, it has to be interactive. On some level.
Okay.
I feel like there are like continued rabbit holes of interactive music that would almost create categories of their own. But at the top level, I think that's about how I would sum up dynamic music.
Yes. So question number 3: when does dynamic music work well?
I mean, it can serve a lot of different purposes. The best time it's used is whenever it's like highlighting something the player's doing, or it gives the player another form of feedback besides just the visuals. Cause video games are visuals and the things you hear. It's just those two senses. Like you touch the controller, but it's mainly just those two senses. So dynamic music used really well is letting the player know something in addition to what you see on the screen. Like, Super Mario World, whenever you're on Yoshi, it's different. It has the little marimba, or not marimba, the little, like, congos playing along with you. That kind of lets the player know, oh, okay, so this is a different kind of state and adds a new layer to the music. So
it's kind of an interesting way to phrase it. It's almost like it's giving you more information about the world around you. It's giving you an emotional cue almost of, like in that particular case, you're Mario, but you're more than Mario. You've got more powers now. You're on this little dinosaur dude from Dinosaur Island. And so even if you weren't looking at the screen, you would know you have the Yoshi power-up, which is actually pretty interesting. I would like games to do that more often.
Yeah, instead of the layer of feedback, really, to how the game interacts with you.
And actually, on that same note, I find that dynamic music is often used to the greatest effect when it's when it's adding and subtracting layers rather than shifting,
just changing.
Rather than putting an entire shift in the entire soundtrack, where you've got drums here now. Maybe everything cuts out except the strings to know that you're on the edge of death.
Exactly. One of my favorite examples of like dynamic music being used is when you're like in the shop in Final Fantasy 1, and as you're switching menu items, the music cuts out because it can't play it at the same time as the sound effects. I just think it's so clever.
It's kind of like unintentional.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, those are definitely good points.
Actually, there's going with what you're saying, Stephen. There's actually terms for those two different kinds of dynamic music. That I discovered this when I was doing the research for that episode a while back. Horizontal resequencing is I don't know these off the top of my head. I definitely have Wikipedia open.
Like, wow.
I'm so smart. Horizontal resequencing is where pre-composed pieces of music are shuffled. That's the whole, you walk into a new place and it changes. But vertical orchestration is whenever it like shifts, like the tone shifts or the instrumentation changes because of different things, or just the music, the separate parts of an ongoing loop is the way that it puts it. That's like, Banjo-Kazooie is a great example I can think of that. Is whenever you're walking through Gruntilda's lair and then you walk in front of a level that's like a sand level and it gets like an Arabian theme to the same music.
It's nice because it's so seamless.
It
doesn't miss a beat. It doesn't, jump to a preset point in the song where it has to loop at some point. No, it's just the exact moment, the exact note you are currently listening to immediately shifts into this completely different theme. It's almost like an education or a tutorial on how to use this well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great.
One other point I wanted to bring up though is, I feel that I respond most often to dynamically changing music when the adrenaline is the highest. Like when I feel like whatever I am doing is causing some kind of reaction in the scene around me. Like, let's say Wind Waker, for example. When you strike your sword, you get that little shot of strings when you make contact. And I feel like that could go unnoticed in a lot of different things you do in that game. Like, what if the music changes when you put the sail up, or the music changes when you bring your telescope out? You might not even notice
changes when you use the tingle tuner.
Yeah, well, I think that might actually...
I think it actually does happen.
Might actually be the case, but...
The game goes, why are you using this?
Just chanting in the background.
But yeah, like, it's those moments when you're already kind of spiked with adrenaline. You're already really engaged emotionally in whatever's going on.
Yeah,
and then, since music is closely tied to emotion, I feel like it's just like a double whammy. I really like it when games can pull that off.
Yeah, Wind Waker is a really good example of that. But that's another... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'd like to see that in, like a racing game, actually. Like, because in a racing game, your adrenaline is constantly spiking. So what if, like in Burnout, as you pass cars, the music changes? That would be fantastic.
Well, that kind of happens in Mario Kart, how the music speeds up for the last lap.
That's true.
You are forgetting a great game that's kind of, not you, but Steven, SSX3.
I thought you were going to say Sonic R.
Unfortunately, no. But SSX3 does that in a racing game. I mean, it's not so much based on your opponents, but on the environments you're in.
You are right, because when you're doing the tricks in the air, like the music pulls out. You can only hear the bass. And then
when you go into tunnels,
when you hit the ground, everything kicks in again. That's perfect, because you're holding your breath the whole time you're in the air, pulling off those tricks. And then you land, you exhale, the speed picks up, and the music kicks back in. Yeah, really good example.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the newer SSX game did that as well.
Oh yeah.
I think. Or at least something similar. And that game had dubstep, so it was even better.
Oh yeah, it had dubstep that always kicked in when you went into tricky mode. That was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
tricky.
Tricky.
It's great.
It's tricky.
All right. So question 4 is kind of on the opposite end here. When does it really not? Referring to dynamic music working well. Now,
yeah.
go ahead. Jeez,
Nah.
I'll go ahead real quick.
I hate Skype.
I hate Skype sometimes. I agree.
Oh, yeah.
We could all do all these in person, but we need to live in San Francisco to get anyone in the video game industry. So one example we had on an earlier episode we did, was a lot of combat music can feel really stilted. For example,
Definitely.
no matter what you fight in Morrowind, it's going to be playing the same songs, be it a rat or a Daedra Lord.
Even if
In
you were to fight
Ocarina
a
of
rat
Time.
Daedra Lord, no difference.
I guess you could fight a rat who is a Daedra Lord. Maybe that exists. Or in Ocarina of Time, it very inelegantly jumps in and out of the combat music and often very delayed when you're on the field. So that's the first thing that jumps to my mind. But what about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing. Like, I love a lot of battle music and JRPGs, but it is frustrating whenever you're like, yeah, I'm digging this music in the field, and oh, okay, well, cool, I love this music again, and you hear the same thing over and over again, and you just want to hear the field music, and the field music's nice.
Absolutely. The only game I didn't mind this in, did you ever play Xenoblade Chronicles?
I did not.
Okay.
I would like to, but
that game just had absolutely fantastic combat music, and something I really loved about it is you would just kind of wander around the field, but when you ran across a particularly dangerous enemy, it would have a different song that played. So it kind of scaled up in the music it would have depending on the enemy you were fighting. So it felt a lot more. It felt like if Morrowind had its own songs for rats and for Daedra Lords. It was very nice that
And again, that's
the
sort of
adrenaline
like
kicked in at the right moment.
feeding you the extra information where you swing your camera around and you see some big monster, and then you hear those electric guitars kick in. And you suddenly
Realize
wait,
it's a tough fight.
this is
going
for
to murder
real.
me.
This is
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's another good example. I guess we really are positive on this show.
I got another negative.
Go for
it. And I realize this isn't the best example because it is a game that's in Steam Early Access. I guess it's beta or alpha, but Starbound, if y'all have played that. The music in it's great. It's beautiful music, but every time you get into combat, it shifts over to the battle music, which is just disruptive. It makes sense because sometimes you don't know if the monsters are good or bad.
Yep.
But the music in it's really beautiful, and sometimes you just want to hear it and, just kill a little rabbit and then keep running because, you're a sadist in a video game. And, but then whenever you slice the rabbit, it cuts to half a second of the battle music and then comes back because you killed it really fast.
I think this is a reason a game like World of Warcraft did not try to do something like combat music.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you're doing really repetitive tasks, having the music go along to it is going to get old.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to say that exact same example. Don't worry, Brian. Not precisely in the same words what I was thinking.
Oh, well, beat you to it.
And I think one other problem when music cuts in like that is it's almost like miniature music spoilers. Like, it'll broadcast an event before you're supposed to know about it.
Horror movie syndrome is what I've heard.
Yeah, like what if you're sneaking around and then an enemy sneaks up on you, but you hear the music before you hear the enemy, and it ruins the whole moment that was supposed to be there. Yeah.
That happened to me a lot in games like Oblivion and Skyrim, where I'll just be walking around and I hear that and look around and be like, "Oh, wait, where is he?"
You're like, "Oh, it's Cliff Racer."
Yeah, the classic Morrowind. You hear the music, you're like, you look to your left, you look to your right, behind you, in front of you. Oh no! Look straight up. There it is. The sixth Cliff Racer from the past 4 minutes.
Oh my gosh!
Good thing we have a crossbow.
Hated it.
That's why Fallout 3, I always kept the radio on because it never changed.
Aha.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just kept playing. And really, and I think I said this in the episode actually, that it really, stinks for the guy that made the music for that game because half the people that played it never heard it because they just heard, 40s music.
I feel like anytime you're going to make a big open world game that people spend hours playing, the artists or musicians have to accept very early on that very few people are going to listen to a lot of their music. Like,
it's true.
So many people just turn
But it's
it off.
going to be made up for it by
stuff.
the people who listen to it over and over.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Becomes ingrained in your mind permanently.
Yeah, I'm sure I listen to Skyrim music more outside of Skyrim than playing it.
Do you turn Skyrim music off to play it?
Not off necessarily. It's like it's beautiful music, don't get me wrong. It's just whenever I did play it, I just kind of like, I'm just going to walk around the world, not really paying attention to it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But then whenever I'm,
Yeah.
working and, it's nice to hear it.
Yeah,
in the ears.
absolutely.
It's nice.
Skyrim is a fantastic soundtrack.
Mhm.
All the Elder Scrolls games are really. All
Jeremy
right.
Soule, he's a good guy.
Oh, yeah. We should have him on the show, but I don't think he'll respond to our emails. He's a busy guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out, but I can't find a good contact for him.
I don't know. I backed his Kickstarter. Maybe that'll buy me some
If
credit.
you listeners know how I can contact Jeremy Soule, then get in touch with us.
If you listener are Jeremy Soule, then get in touch with us.
Oh man, if Jeremy Soule's listening to this podcast, we're in better shape than I assumed.
Who knows? All right, so enough of this negativity. We're going on to question number 5.
Yeah, positivity.
Which genres tend to use dynamic music and how?
Rhythm games. I'm a genius.
Rhythm games are dynamic music.
I didn't think about that. That's
You didn't
true.
Think about rhythm games.
Samba de Amigo.
Yeah,
Guitar Hero.
another
Rock
good example.
Frequency.
So obviously,
Project Diva.
wow, that's the best example yet. I mean, obviously, this is, like you said, Matthew, this is the embodiment of exactly what we're talking about. These are genres of games built on this very concept of dynamic music. So here's a little trivia question. Can you guys think of what the earliest rhythm game is?
Pong.
Earliest I'm thinking of right now, and it's not that long ago, but Guitar Freaks or DDR are the first ones I can think of.
I was thinking Parappa the Rappa.
I think DDR was before Parappa, but I could be wrong.
DDR was probably before that, yeah.
In arcades, at least.
I don't know if it came to America later than Japan, or where DDR came.
Oh, you know what rhythm game is awesome?
What?
Rhythm Heaven.
That is super true. It's also a testament to pure just rhythm. Like it's a one button game.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's like 2, maybe. But anyway.
Well, essentially,
yeah,
it's close. That's
absolutely
the basic concept. So yeah, the rhythm genre. That's a no-brainer. Even though you apparently didn't think of it, I don't know.
I have no brain. Evidently, I thought platformers because stuff like Banjo-Kazooie. I think platformers kind of became a standard after that to use it. Like if you go underwater, you'll hear a different version of the song.
Yeah, I guess that's. Did that become a standard though?
Maybe not standard, but it became more common than other genres. I'm pretty sure.
I was going to say just every Nintendo game N64 onwards.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I was thinking actually.
Because I was trying to think of examples of good dynamic music, and every single one was Zelda, Mario, Banjo-Kazooie's not necessarily Nintendo, but it's still N64. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking of all those, and they have super good dynamic music, but they're all,
I mean, even look at Luigi's Mansion. That had one of the an entirely unique use of dynamic music.
I might do a whole episode on Luigi's Mansion in the future.
Please do a whole episode on Luigi's Mansion.
It is actually just, I had seen it played before, but I actually didn't get it when I first got the GameCube. So I actually just played it like a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's so good. Like, there's so many great examples of dynamic music you can use well. Like the fact that the theme to it is never played by an instrument, except for like in the little Game Boy Horror.
Luigi.
That's the only time that it's ever played with an instrument. Every other time it's Luigi whistling.
And they didn't just leave it at that. His whistles and hums changed depending on his
He's whistling when it's safe, and
Right.
he hums whenever there's ghosts around.
That was such a genius little game.
Game was amazing. I forgot.
It's like 5 hours long. Should play it again.
Yeah, I agree.
And like the atmosphere was so thick somehow. And the lightning lighting up the walls. Yeah, that
And it
was,
still looks great. Like it's held up incredibly well.
yeah, particles of the dust and everything. Yeah, that was a super neat game. Genres. That's what we were talking about. So Nintendo, that's a genre.
Luigi's Mansion crap. Luigi's Mansion cast.
Oh yeah, okay, let's do it. Spin off.
A whole podcast about Luigi's Mansion every week. So I tried to speed run it this week.
But in all seriousness, Brian, you and I have made a number of podcasts over the years.
Uh-huh.
I want to make just one that is that much of a niche. Like,
You could probably do a Monster Hunter cast.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I
Dark
could
Souls.
see, or Dark Souls. Yeah, that's another really deep game.
Yep.
We should do a Monster Hunter podcast, and it would be great because we've never played Monster Hunter. Like, think about how entertaining that would be. I'd love
Would
to
we
see
play it for preparation of the podcast? Or
No,
just make stuff up
we
every
would not play it at all.
So I was looking at the Monster Hunter wiki. This was an interesting article. Yeah. That's a good idea, Steven. Put that on the back burner.
That's why most of our ideas actually fail.
Yep.
Anyway, well, the second genre after rhythm that popped up to me was RPGs, but specifically Western RPGs. Because I feel like it's almost a necessity, because Western RPGs oftentimes have real-time combat, unlike turn-based JRPGs traditionally.
Or less like segmented turn-based.
Yeah.
You'd still kind of, like, KOTOR is still turn-based. It's still within the same kind of world whenever the music changes.
If it's not open-ended, it at the very least won't take you to a separate screen.
Yes.
Normally, Western RPGs are just like exploration music, combat music, though, right?
Most of the time, but that is dynamic music technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest.
It is not the greatest,
example.
and I feel like even Elder Scrolls still struggles with that. I would love for them to delve deeper into what they could do. Well, you know what? They did. They did that, the whole Innkeeper song thing. And that was, an extraordinary idea.
You mean like the bards and Skyrim?
Yeah, the bards with the...
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was great. They also...
That's more, to use another fancy music term, that's diegetic music. I think it's how you say it.
Nice.
I think I say it's a diegetic, but it's music that exists within the world of the game.
Oh, so would
that's
Luigi's Mansion be using diegetic music?
Yeah, it would, because his whistling is part of the game, and it's kind of the whole almost breaking the fourth wall, because he's humming along with the orchestra.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. I definitely thought about that for an episode too.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, good. Then, alright.
I think, another one that did it was, what was it? Max Payne 2. I think they like hummed the theme song, or the...
It's one of them where he plays it on the piano. Let's say
yeah. I think it's Max Payne 2. I think it's the one that Poets of the Fall made for them, Late Goodbye. Yeah. And I think that's in the game before it plays full in the credits.
Wait, Late Goodbye is the Max Payne song?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Pretty sure. Yeah, that's the song they made for Max Payne 2.
I just thought that was another Poets of the Fall song.
Nope. They made that for Max Payne 2. It was their first song that really got popular.
Oh, I didn't. I would have thought it would be darker than that.
Huh. Interesting. No. That's Max Payne.
Hey, while we're talking about diegetic music.
Okay. I keep thinking it's going to be digestive music.
Yeah, let me make sure I'm saying that right. Because
Ocarina of Time was an early and awesome example of that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Where, like, all those Ocarina songs, the characters actually knew about and played.
Zelda's Lullaby was like, an actual song within the world.
Which is pretty cool.
That's pretty...
We were talking about something, though. Still talking about genres. So Western RPGs, they do it a lot. Oftentimes it's rote, but it is often done.
That's true.
You guys have anything for that?
Any other genres? I don't think shooters do it very often.
Nah, shooters kind of, for the most part, I say that. Call of Duty does use dynamic music a good bit, or at least not dynamic music, dynamic sounds. Because the music will change if you're, like, there's sounds for when you're getting shot at, the sounds kind of, like, close in whenever you're hurt and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more sound.
It's not
they
really
have the little
music,
guitar strummy stuff when you level up.
bum 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 bum.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's dynamic music, but
that's a good point.
I mean, kind of.
Based music.
One genre that definitely uses it a lot to my limited knowledge, speaking of Luigi's Mansion, is the horror genre.
Yeah.
Because you got, like I said before, emotion is tightly linked to music. And
Studies show.
My personal opinion, aka studies, shows that horror games need to use dynamic music to fully pull you into whatever's going on, to scare you, as it were.
Yeah.
Music can build an atmosphere better than almost anything else.
Completely true.
Pretty much, if you mute a horror game, it is pretty much never going to be scary. I mean, part of that sound design, of course, and music, but...
That's also an episode I did.
Really?
Yeah, for Halloween, I did
awesome.
Scary music, which was difficult because I don't play a whole lot of scary games.
Yeah, so I don't either.
I had to play through a little bit of Dead Space.
Wait a minute, you didn't play Luigi's Mansion. I mean, come on.
I did not play. Actually, I started playing it after that episode.
Okay.
So he's able to build up his tolerance for the scares, and he can.
I had to play. I had to play Dead Space to get prepared for Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of your show, I don't think we ever mentioned that this topic was inspired by your dynamic music versus static music.
One of my first. That's actually was one of the reasons I started doing the show. Was because I wrote a script about that because I wanted to learn more about it, and the best way to learn more about it, my experience, is to be able to teach it to someone. So
yeah, that's cool. So do your homework, listeners. Go watch that as well.
I think it's my least viewed one, actually. So
really,
give it a little love. Well, because whenever it's like I could see this one about Koji Kondo, or I could see this one about dynamic music.
I definitely get that. And everyone wants to know about Silver Surfer, so it's kind of tough competition.
That's fair. Right. Silver Surfer is super good, so.
Wait, Koji Kondo did Silver Surfer?
No.
Okay.
No. There's a reference to Tim Follin now.
Yes. Oh, okay, just making sure.
No, I don't think he did, but, so yeah, none of us actually play horror games, so that's the extent of our knowledge.
I was thinking about shooters, we were saying. Harmonix is actually trying to change that very explicitly.
Yeah.
Harmonix is releasing a shooter that is entirely rhythm-based.
That's right, they are.
So, I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm curious to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they're still trying different stuff. I mean, the cool thing about Harmonix is they've had to adapt to the idea that the rhythm genre has died, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's gone latent. I wouldn't say it's died, because
they're pulling all the DLC.
In 5 years... or 5 or 10 years, rhythm games are gonna come back super strong and then die again. So it's like a phoenix.
Resurrected.
It's gonna come back forth.
Yeah, exactly. So it is suffering a temporary death.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they're trying different ideas in the meantime.
I do like that too.
Stuff like, what's it called? Fantasia. And this game I don't know the name of, but it's a rhythm game shooter that someone can Wikipedia. So moving on to question number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Has dynamic music changed much over the years? It would be ironic if it hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly has. It's one of those things that, unfortunately, while there's obviously a lot more capabilities to do it now, but I don't know. I feel like I was trying to think of recent games that had really good examples of dynamic music that weren't made by Nintendo. And it was kind of difficult because I was thinking of even a lot of indie games that I really love, don't have dynamic music. I mean, Super Meat Boy I love that soundtrack, but it wouldn't make sense to have dynamic music. It's just, it kind of has to be the same thing. Cause again, the repetition, you're gonna be doing the same thing over and over.
I wonder if there's a difficulty for people to have that close of coordination between the programming of the game and the music of the game, where it's I wonder if not everyone is that dedicated to their soundtrack integrating in their game to do that work, because it seems like not a lot of people put that much effort into it.
I mean, it would definitely be a lot easier to just contract someone out to make the soundtrack, and you show them images and gameplay videos of the levels, and they make songs that fit it. And
especially with an orchestra, it's not like when you're using a synthetic thing that was basically being produced by the code. Of course, you can easily change that with the game, but with an orchestra, it would be a lot tougher to record music that could then seamlessly fit into the game's actions. So in a way, it's become more difficult.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like, I mean, trying to avoid Nintendo, but going back to that, Mario Galaxy.
Yep.
Those games, like, it's funny, the times when it doesn't have an orchestra are some of the coolest musical moments because they're the ones that, like, when you're on the ball and it increases the speed of the music as, like, based on how fast you're moving. That's really cool.
Yeah, Nintendo's really big into doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, Soul Calibur 5, I believe that...
Did it?
I think it might have... I'm kind of blurry on this. Maybe it just started playing a different song when the match came to...
I know that's what Soul Calibur 4 did, but I can't recall.
Soul Calibur 5 did something different. I thought that... No, Soul Calibur 5 totally had like the... Or was that 4? Great, now I'm getting my Soul Calibur stuff. Well, the point is the old games didn't do that. So, what I would like to see ideally is a serious look at its music and don't just say, let's get live instruments this time. Let's, make this more complex. Let's make this more, appealing to, a wider audience of music listeners. But to say, let's use the technology we have at our disposal to make this music part of the world and part of the gameplay. And like you said, Brian, I bet that's tough, but it almost always pays off so heavily.
Yeah. Actually, another good example. I was just looking through my Steam library thinking, has good. Portal 2 has a really cool, with the gels. The gels have different, like, things on top of the music whenever you're, like, flying through the air. And the one level where they're playing the classical music, or I guess Baroque music. Sorry, music school guy. Gotta get those eras correct. Whenever it's playing the music with the harpsichord, and then whenever you go on the little cannons that shoot you across, then it plays like this electronica version.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's a really cool example of it too. And that's something that is a lot easier to do now with the technology we have today.
That's a good point.
So, kind of going back to the heart of the question, do you think that on any fundamental level, the techniques used today are radically different than the older examples? Or are they just the same thing done with higher fidelity and more precision?
I mean, it's the same thing with higher fidelity. I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference between the music playing when you're going through the slidey gel. Which one's is the orange the slidey gel? It's been lost that played Portal.
Blue?
Or is that I thought, is the orange the bouncy gel?
Whichever. The people listening to this, like, it's
question
the blue
7 is the orange the bouncy gel.
Yeah. But there's not a whole lot of difference between the music playing when you're sliding on the gel or Congo playing whenever you're on Yoshi.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of difference between the two. It's just the implementation's different. But that's the thing is, there's a lot of stuff that people can do with technology nowadays that no one's thought of. And the moment that someone thinks of it, then everyone can do it and permutate from that. But, someone's got to try to push the systems and create a cool, way for that to work.
And that's why I think harmonics is pretty important, because as far as I know, no one has ever tried to make a shooter or any game that isn't, maybe a platformer or maybe just a generic rhythm game, make a game that actually syncs up gameplay-wise with the music. Like, that's extremely rare, and let alone in a multiplayer context. Like, that is totally different and off the beaten path.
I think the main thing that makes it harder now, is I kind of touched on before, is as music has become a bigger and bigger production, it's kind of and teams are getting bigger and bigger, at least in kind of the AAA space, music is being pushed into kind of its own separate thing. Like, music is in a way being pushed away from the game, in that you have a dedicated composer who's not working on anything else in the game, who's working with a live recording of a live orchestra, and there's so much money and time being put into that, it kind of has to be done separately from the game. Well, back when you had a team of like 8 people, and the programmer was also the musician, and they were working with tools that basically all did the same thing, that made it easier. And I'm sure indie teams now have a lot of opportunity for that sort of stuff. So,
but unfortunately, a lot of indie teams are programmer, game designer, artist, and also the musician.
Yeah. Kind of hire him
like
separately.
Yeah, which, I mean, I'm a musician. I don't know how to program, so I'm not helping the problem. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a very rare gift to be able to dabble in one or the other enough to be, helpful on a project like that, I guess.
All right. Well then, question number 7. What are some ways you'd like to see dynamic music used?
At all.
Yeah,
there you go. After that discussion,
no,
it's almost like in ways I don't expect. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that. I mean, it is used, but I would love to see it used more. Obviously, there's a lot of situations where it's not appropriate, but there's a whole world of ways that people could use it that people just haven't done yet, or it hasn't gotten enough spotlight yet. So, I think that it would just be really cool to see what is capable, like the harmonics game with I really hope this game's good. We're talking about it so much.
It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be really interesting.
That's true. It has to spur people to be creative and use that idea. Yeah.
And Harmonix has done plenty of inspiring in their time, so. And I mean, it doesn't have to be super complex. It doesn't have to be, make a whole game out of music, but it's a shooter. Like, even just small things, like paying attention to characters and assigning them their own theme songs, like that could change through the game. Like, what if you're in like some cave and it's playing the cave song in this RPG? You switch to a different party member and the instruments change to reflect that character's personality or whatever. Like, I think that would make me so happy. It wouldn't really be that tough to implement.
Not at all.
What about you, Brian? Have any crazy ideas?
That's an excellent question, Stephen. I'm supposed to be asking those. I'm supposed to be asking the questions you wrote, darn it.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually didn't come up with any in particular, so I feel bad about that.
I actually have like this really out there Peter Molyneux level of unrealistic expectations for a game idea.
Okay.
Or at least how to implement music in a game. Like,
What's
what
that?
about like this really minimalist music track that plays throughout this whole world, but every element in the game morphs it a little bit in real time. So, like, let's say a storm comes and clouds gather.
Actually, I know a game that does that.
Wait, what is it? I want to play it.
Have you ever heard of Proteus?
Yeah, I did think of Proteus. That's a really good example.
I mean, obviously there's the whole debate, is it a game? It's honestly, I think of it as an interactive relaxation program, I guess. Like, it's the most relaxed, chill thing ever, but the entire world does stuff, like whatever you're looking at, whatever you're walking on, whatever you see is reflected in the music, and the sounds and the music kind of are one and the same.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Like, when you're, not only do all the little, like, the rabbits make little magical sounds when they hop, and whatnot, I think maybe the next step would be letting you do stuff in a world like that.
Yeah.
So, like, when you
more than just explore,
Yeah, or like when, I don't know, like, just like the Wind Waker sword hit thing could be implemented in there as well, and I just really love it, in like an open world game like Skyrim, how the weather just dynamically changes on its own. If, like Proteus, that would bring musical changes. So you could also, like, heavy cellos and drums in if there's a storm, and then as it clears, it'd go back to violins or whatever. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah, good point of bringing Proteus up, though. I have played that, and it's very neat, so.
I feel like that's something that, the Minecraft style games would benefit from a lot.
Yeah.
Because they're already dealing with kind of those procedurally generated worlds. And there's so darn many of them. At this point.
There's a ton.
I thought of one that wasn't for this, but for a previous question where we were talking about dynamic music working well.
Yeah.
And I think I haven't quite figured out how it works in the game, but Knights had a really ambitious thing.
Oh my goodness, Knights is awesome.
It like had that whole,
Knights. Sorry.
No problem. It like had this whole A-life system where like when you'd interact with the creatures of the different levels and make them happy or sad, and they would grow and change, and as they change, the music and the level would change. It was very odd. I still don't quite know how it all works. I don't know if you got deeper into that, Steven.
I mean, I did a lot of research into how the A-Life works, and I don't think anyone truly knows. That's kind of the problem. It's very interesting and ambitious and like nothing else, but it's just not very predictable. You can barely notice when it changes, and it isn't in real time, but it definitely does. So the song will essentially be the same, but let's say you paraloop some poor little Nighttopians and send them off into the void. The next time you play that level, there will be less Nighttopians, the happiness level will be down, and the music will have a different tone to it.
Okay.
And if you listen to like the soundtrack, it just plays through every version of the song in a row. It's fascinating and also just amazing music.
All right.
So yes, that is a very cool example. I was really hoping that Knight's Journey of Dreams would have done that, but I don't even know if they have that system in anymore. Kind of a disappointing game.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know anything about the Knight series, but I feel like that's all I picked on whenever the sequel finally came out, was everyone's like, oh, Knights is getting a sequel. Oh, it's not good.
But I mean, let's be honest, it's not easy to do Knights again. Like, I didn't really expect anything else, so.
It was kind of a one-hit wonder when it came out.
Yeah.
Still not quite sure why it was ever good.
Oh,
but
I can tell you exactly why it was good, but that's
another episode that isn't
cast.
even for this podcast. Yeah.
I would make a Knights cast with you if you wanted to do that.
Are you talking to me or Matthew?
Yeah, either one. I don't care if he hasn't played it. I just wanted to.
I was about to say, right after you do the Monster Hunter cast, you haven't played. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Sorry I didn't have an answer for that last question, but
quite all right. I had two, so we worked together as a team.
Did Matthew give his answers? I'm trying to remember.
Kinda. I was like, just use it more. Use it.
Oh,
more.
right. Yes. Good answer.
It's kind of a cop out.
It was more of a top level philosophical look at the state of our nation.
Yeah. Philosophical is kind of shorthand for I don't know
lazy.
An actual answer.
Exactly. So. That's why I'm so philosophical. Seriously.
Actually, I think philosophical would be longhand for lazy.
That's fair, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to our final question. Question number 8. What have you been working on? In other words, plug all your projects.
All right. Obviously, Major Third channel. Just search Major Third on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow me at Major_Third on Twitter. Everything spelled out. The big thing I'm working on now, though, is I've been spending the past month or so trying to play through Final Fantasy VI, and I'm going to do a bunch of episodes about Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, good.
Because that game is basically an opera. Like, there's so many operatic themes and parts of it that are, recurring themes and stuff, themes coming up, and not just the same song playing in the same time, but the same theme coming up in a lot of different pieces. Just the final boss theme itself is probably going to be an episode. Obviously, when you're listening to this, you already know if it is or not, so.
That sounds fascinating.
But yeah, that's what I'm working on. Beating the game first and then writing the scripts and stuff.
Even beating the game, to me, something insurmountable is still
it's long. And also the thing I love about the game is, spoiler alert for a 20-year-old game. That's part of the reason I'm doing it, is because the 20th anniversary is in April.
Oh,
so,
right.
But halfway through the halfway point of the game is whenever the world blows up. So.
Oh, what? I didn't get that far.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Wow.
It's a really cool game.
That kind of seems more likely to be the end of the game.
You'd think.
Yeah, that's what. Does Sid die?
What? He can.
No. Okay.
Granted, we're talking about a series called Final Fantasy, in which this is the 6th game, so I shouldn't expect it to end at all.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
The 6th, and we're pretty soon are going to have the 15th.
Yep, exactly.
Do you think they're ever going to make 6 too?
Wow.
No, because according to the current people for Final Fantasy, everything before 7 was a mistake.
Well, that's why you gotta play Bravely Default instead.
Yeah, which is them saying, hey, you know how Final Fantasy used to be good? That's me. That's mean.
Hey, have you heard Bravely Default's music, by the way?
I have. It's really good.
Yeah, I love it so much.
I haven't played, unfortunately, but the music's super
That
good.
overworld theme, I could just sit there and listen to it for minutes upon minutes.
Is it dynamic?
No, it's just awesome.
Why are you talking about it, man?
Ah!
Irrelevant.
I'm off message!
Yeah.
Thank goodness
Gee.
you're our PR person.
Yeah. But yeah, Major Third on the
Uh-huh.
YouTube and Major_Third on Twitter.
Great. Yeah. Well, look him up. Well worth your time. And while you're looking things up, you should look us up. We're Train Station at 8 on Twitter. It's also our Gmail account.
Station at 8 on Twitter at gmail.com. Yep.
Yes, exactly. And of course, you can find us on whalesorwhales.com, which is our parent network of super cool shows from us and our friends.
Yeah.
Yep, Disembodied Voices plugging away as always. New game on for Horror Cam. Cameron is now playing through Haunted Memories. Let's
You can also get all this info at our show notes, which are on whalesorwhales.com on our show page. So check those out.
Links.
All the music we used in this episode and all the people who are on here and all the links and stuff you'll need. So,
I think that takes care of business for us.
okay. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for coming, Stephen.
You are very welcome.
Thank you for coming, Matthew.
So definitely, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And we will see you next week. Until then, say goodbye to the monkey porter.
Just cramming in those Animal Crossing references.
Yes! Someone gets them, finally!